bound base, like the RUPT of erupt or rupture, needs another element in order to surface in a word. Two or more bases give us compounds, like twofold or someone or bankrupt. Once we figure out a word's meaningful elements, we can peel back its history to shed a little more light on why it's spelled as it is. The word to, for example, needs its W in order to mark its connection to words like twice, 12, 20, twin, and between. A word's history is another layer of the onion. With that understanding, let's investigate the word one. First, we need to check in with what it means. Unique, single, solitary. One's historical layers include its relatives only, once, 11, and even a, an, and any. But it's the morphological relatives, the ones that share the base O-N-E, that are really astonishing. There are the familiar ones like anyone and one track and oneself. Those are obvious. But let's take a look at some unexpected derivations of the word one. The word alone is built from the prefix al plus the base one. It's the same al prefix that we see in always, already, almighty, and almost. It means all. The word alone means all one. It was misanalyzed in the Middle Ages as having the prefix a, like in asleep and awake and around, and a new base was born, L-O-N-E, which then developed into its own family. In the word atone, we find the familiar preposition at, compounded with the base O-N-E. See, when we atone for something we've done wrong, we attempt to make things whole again, to fix what's broken, to be at one again with whomever we hurt. But here's perhaps the best one of all, the word onion, which is also frequently derided as irregular or crazy for its spelling of with an O. But again, if we look into the word's structure and its history, it's a mystery no more. When we look at the roots of an onion, we learn that it is written as O-N-E plus I-O-N.
This is what we call word
suffix we find in tension, action, union, and thousands of other words in English. Unlike the many cloves and a head of garlic, an onion has a single bulb. It is marked by the state or condition of oneness. Like an onion, English is one single writing system shared across time and space. Its structure and its history have many layers, and peeling them apart can really add flavor to our language and spice up our understanding. See, spelling is never just about spelling, but about how written words make sense. It's almost enough to make you want to cry.
And I just thought, Gina, again, is Dr. Gina Cook, and she's been doing it for yonks, and she can say it so succinctly in a TED Talk, boom, in 4 minutes. So I'm going to be blah, blah, blahing my way through life in my Ilana fashion. And I hope for you that you've got your interest piqued, and you walk away kind of scratching your head a bit, and you've got materials here. I have permission from Pete, so this is all official, but this is his stuff that I have taken on and I've taken into the classroom as best as I can. This book is a book that I made up where I knew that I wanted to get my spelling out to the kids in a way, and it's like, there's so much, what can I do? So I fashioned up a book here, and it just gives you an idea of what are the possibilities out there from the different levels. Tough love with supervocalic suffix, man, you gotta understand who I am as a teacher. First of all, this symbol means it cannot exist. That is inaccurate. That's a linguistic term. It's nothing fancy to Melvyn Ramsden or Pete Bowers. So you think of the word tough, you think of the word love, and what is typically a spelling mistake for children. You could highly imagine that a child would spell tough, T-U-F-F. That makes sense to me. Love, love. So that's why I thought it was a catchy little title. And if we can hang around to the end of it, or if you have time, I'll show you the meaning of how is tough love spelled correctly and why is it spelled. This one is just a little inside joke. My kids over the years will know that. I have superheroes that the kids have created over the years, and this is one of our favorite ones. And you got to perform it with me. Anytime we have a word, I don't know, for example, if that word comes up, my children will know that that vowel suffix is so powerful that it comes over, Spokane suffix man. And that's just our silly little thing. We've investigated words, and they've come through the hypothesis to make the conclusion that if there's a vowel suffix, then the single silent E of the base word is dropped. And so it's just a cute little thing, but it's very powerful, all the little fun ways that you can play with this in order to make sense of spelling. Because our first reaction is, oh my goodness, English is insane, it's irregular, there's no way I'll ever learn every single word. How can I possibly do that? So the two key figures and the information and contact are there. Melvyn Ramsden is the founder of RealSpelling. So I've set up all the resources on the books on the table that I've collected over the years. And he is the founder of this. He is a linguist himself. He is not about pedagogy. He is not about making materials to sell. All he wants is the truth about the English language to get out there, and for people to linguistically have that knowledge. Dr. Pete Bowers, he is an international former teacher himself, and now has the founder of WordWorks, and does lots of presentations in international schools at Ear Coast, Lisa, and so on. And he works very closely with Melvyn Ramsden. So their information is at the back, if you so desire. But just right now, turn and talk. I mean, how would you finish this sentence? English spelling is, what would you say? English spelling is. That's right. So I'm hearing this idea that English language spelling is frustrating. English language is crazy. It's all over the place. I learn how to spell one word, and then along comes another word. So the thing is, if we were to treat this like a scientific process, if we were to investigate this hypothesis that English is crazy, what evidence would you have for this hypothesis? I mean, make a list off the top of your head. What fits into this idea of, English sucks, it's crazy, it's full of this, and then you do that, and how do I know this?
Just the inconsistency.
Oddball? So what words come to mind for you? They? Why isn't it T-H-A-Y? I mean, what's up with that? What else, what words bounce into your mind? English is crazy. I mean, look at this word. How in the world would it be spelled? Look at tough. Where did T-O-U-G-H come from? No, tough. So when you do this, I mean, it's fascinating to think like a child, because we adults tend to come up with really fancy, tough words. But think of the word goes. Think of the word does. How does a child typically spell does if they have difficulties? Maybe D-U-Z. Possibly. I mean, there's so many of them that come up. And look at this list here and say it out loud. Look how it's spelled. So we've got tough, we've got love. Try. Like, why isn't it T-R-I? Why isn't give just G-I-V? I mean, come on. Give, good, there we go. And there's an amazing amount of words that seemingly have this no sense whatsoever. But if I were to go on this scientific method and the scientific approach of it, if it were possible to explain that these words are in fact systematic, that they are logical, that they follow an ordered pattern, then isn't it true that we have to change our hypothesis that English language is crazy? I mean, isn't that the scientific process? You have a hypothesis, you get a bunch of data, you analyze it, you go through, you have a conclusion, and the conclusion either is as you predicted in your hypothesis, or if the data comes out false, then you got to change your hypothesis. So the fascinating thing with this is that if you can believe it, every single one of those words is explainable. Why is why is it K for kitten, and yet it's C for cat? Why is it does, D-O-E-Z, when it sounds like it should be D-U-Z, for example? Sign, like what's up with the G? My God, it's not singing. I know I used to learn how to spell by mispronouncing it, but there's no need for that. So, hold on to your horses, because here we go. There are three components that we really do need to think about. And my kids talk about like these. I mean, I do not shy away from the words. It's absolutely incredible. Because it's all about sense and meaning, you want to talk to them about morphology. Morphologies is just how words are built, what's the structure of them. Etymology is looking back at word history and back in time, what was happening that had an impact on how this written thing on a piece of paper that we call letters that make a word, how that evolved. And phonology absolutely has a part in this. That's the sound and how sound connects to meaning. Because what is spelling, what is orthography, other than human thought made visible as text? Oral language came first. We always have to remember that. Oral language came first. And then we had to have a way to represent this oral language, so we had this thing called spelling with these weird things called letters, and so on. So yes, there are the three emphases, and definitely with this structured word inquiry, SNY, as they call it, morphology is the absolute hilt of it. It is the absolute big point. So this is an example of what we're going to be looking at. This is called a matrix. But morphology is how is a word built. And I have in my classroom here, and I've just made a clear one for you. This is the go-to. So your absolute number one is what does the word mean? How is the word built? Absolutely go-to, number one, number two. Number three is what other family members, what other related words come in to make a connection. And number four, it's there, but contrary to how we were taught when we were growing up, and how we might be teaching now, sound is not the number one big boss man in the world of orthography. It's definitely there, phonology, but it's interesting that how can it be represented, and when it has a connection to meaning, that's when it becomes significant. So for example, this one is phonology, and something really empowering for the children. And I use this in my classroom. I mean, I've used it in grade 2, grade 3, up here. It's really important that we teach the children two distinctions. These brackets represent different things. So these brackets represent the sound. So when I say k, a, t, then if I put them in those brackets, the slash brackets, that's how they sound when pronounced. These angle brackets are how it's written on paper. And this is so important, and it's actually really releasing to a lot of children, because there's this idea that when you go k, 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 okay, one way of representing the k sound is that letter on a piece of paper, right? Guess what? There's another way to represent that sound on paper. And so this is what spelling's all about. It is, or English is all about. It's beautifully elastic and flexible. And it is all because primarily number one priority is it's all about meaning. And so because that is the top priority, isn't it amazing that we have this flexibility of the language built in? That we can represent sound on paper with that letter that goes like that, and this letter that goes like that. And it's so important because spelling is all about meaning. We need to have those ways to represent it. Now, the essentially vocabulary, again, I totally use it in my classroom. I don't even go as full fancy as Pete does with it. I mean, I have a lot of McGrathisms, as you can imagine. You know, so, but I use the word morpheme. I use the word affixes. I use the word base. My children here know what a bound base is and a free base is. And it kind of rolls off their tongue because they see through exposure over and over and over again, they begin to get of, oh, okay, so a bound base means that if you have a base, you have to fix something on in order for it to be a word that we use. So I don't walk around, what was a good one? Oh yeah, this is a good one. So I don't walk around with hap, hey, hap, hap. No, but if I have PER, what word do I have? And if I have an S, I have the word perhaps. If I have, and this was an amazing discovery, this is actually a bound base. If I fix on the suffix Y, what happens? I have to double the P, and I have the word happy. Is that just random? No, there's an absolute incredible rule for the doubling of the consonants. But it's absolutely amazing, this concept. They totally get it. Can you put that, go into your brain dictionary, knowing that you have to fix something on, be it in the front, which is what we call a prefix, or at the end, suffix. Notice that is no mistake. The word suffix, prefix, affix, they have prefixes put onto the bound base. So can anybody right here, right now, go in their brain dictionary?
Inspired.
Inspired. Anything else?
Inspired.
Inspired?
Conspire.
Conspire. Aspire. I aspire to be a good teacher. All this kind of stuff.
Inspired.
So it's a whole different way of thinking. But man, oh man, it's absolutely incredible the way that children are able to do that. And especially with this distinction of the brackets, which I teach early on in the year, it's very releasing. So the fundamental, always, the children, they have to start with meaning. That's what the English spelling system is all about. The next one that they have to go for is the structure. How is the word built? And the thing is, you gotta dig deep sometimes. And what I'll show you in a few examples is that we, unknowingly, because that's how we learned, that's how we were taught, we're staying on the surface. And we're denying the deep structure of the word, and it's exactly down deeper that we see the connections and the, oh, now I see why it's spelled that way, for example. So this is just a copy of my poster there. I have one up in my classroom, and I'm continually retraining their brain of what does it mean? How is it built? What are family connections? What are family members that go along with it? Now, this is what blew my mind 8 years ago. Absolutely blew my mind. I'm looking at these words. I mean, look at that, for example. And you can just hear a child saying, oh my God, do I double the P? Do I not double the P? I don't know. English is crazy. Because we're looking at the surface. But if you were to dig deeper, and this is what I like to say in my classroom, peel the banana. So hold that word, hold the banana. Hold the word hopping in your hand. And I act it out because it's a very kinesthetic kind of a thing. Peel the banana. What's the base word of hopping? Hop. How do I spell hop?
H-O-P.
Say this word out loud.
Oh.
Hold your banana, peel the banana, and here's another thing, put on your x-ray glasses. You can just see me. So we do that all the time, put on your x-ray glasses. What's the base word? Hoping is hope. Now, I should have been a better teacher, and I should have said, oh, what does it mean? Can anybody use it in a sentence? Oh, I was hoping that tomorrow was a holiday. Oh, yay. Today, I found out that it was, I had hope. So you firmly establish the meaning connection. They have to have that. And then you go into this whole hold the banana, peel, put on your x-ray glasses, and you come up with that. And look what happens. It's unbelievable. unbelievable. They begin to see, you teach them, there's the meaning connection. The word does, okay, it has a pronunciation shift, but does it have a meaning connection? Use that in a sentence. He does his homework. Oh, will you go and do your homework? You firmly get them to establish the connection of meaning, and all of a sudden you're seeing deep structure and how they are related. Now, there are 3 suffix changes in the English language. There are 3 suffix changes. You can have an E on a base, goes to no E, so that's this sort of an idea. You can have a Y, goes to an I. So who can give me an example of a word like that?
Happiness.
Yeah. So you've got the word happy plus N-E-S-S, and I'm beginning to show you what is called a word sum, is rewritten as check the joins. So you teach them this check the joins, which means anytime that you are putting the 2 puzzle pieces together, you need to first look and see if something's going to happen. Now we know that there are 3 changes in suffixes only. So here's what I do, and it's absolutely incredible. Again, it's repetition. But I say, okay, everyone hold out your hands. What are the vowels? A, E, I, O, U, and Y. What do we know about Y? Y changes to I. So now all I have to do with my hand is hold it up and go like that and look to the, oh yeah, sometimes Y interchanges with I. So it's this kinesthetic motor memory kind of a deal, repetition over and over and over again, retraining them. But look at this one. You go like that with your hands. And you say, you can have a Y at the beginning of the word. You can have a Y at the end of the word. There's only these many reasons why you have a Y in the middle of a word. Otherwise, Y changes to an I. And my kids hear that over and over again. Anytime I bump into something, maybe it's math class, maybe it's science class, it's like, oh wow. And I do all this stuff. I mean, it's amazing what these kids are doing. So you've got that Y to an I thing. And then you guys have already said, what is the other suffix change? We've already seen an example here, when you double the consonant. So we have HOP plus ING is rewritten as check the joins. Check the joins, very dramatic. So you have to check where one thing is joined to another. And because this is a single short vowel, then that has to double before we go. So I would say H-O double the P, I-N-G. And so this is the surface structure. This is what they see on a piece of paper. But this to the left of the arrow is the deep structure. And that's the part of English spelling that we haven't particularly known to pay attention to. It's nothing we ever done on purpose. It's the way we were taught. It's nothing like that. But you have something like this, and you get all the, ooh, 2 vowels go walking, the first one does talking, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, my goodness, it's not evidence that English spelling is irregular. It's actually evidence that we just understood the system that we're teaching the kids. It's not our fault, we didn't know it. But imagine a world where we come to a school where right from grade 1, right from kindergarten, they're having this as just, that's the way it is. The thing is, you come to a grade 5 class and they have to undo so much. And adults, we adults, this is the most mind-boggling stuff for us because of everything we have to undo from the years past. So proper, stopper on the surface, but if you look deep down in the structure, you see that that's just one base. That will not be peeled, that will not be split apart any further. That's the smallest unit of meaning. And this one, a stopper, you put it in so that the water doesn't flow out, that it stops. And so it's the P, and then it goes back to one of the changes. So this idea that the English spelling system does make sense, that it is logical, that it does have order, that it's actually designed to represent meaning, It's this concept of, man, don't those students have the right to be taught by teachers who have a solid understanding of how the English language system means? And this is what got me. Like, I just wrestled with this when I first bumped into it 8 years ago. I beat myself up about it. This idea of how can I rightly say that yes, there is a TIO in the suffix, when it's a load of hoo-ha. It's absolute baloney, for example. So it's this idea of once we're beginning to get an idea that there is something deeper down, I just don't feel right telling people about certain stories. And I'm on a quest myself to understand more and more and more. The idea of phonology, of course it has a place. And that's where people get a little bit militant, you know, the whole language thing. You know, everyone's, ooh, you're either whole language or you're two enemy camps. It's not like that. Phonology absolutely has a place within the classroom. And here's the living proof of it. Even with the vowels, for example, I need the children to know that, remember these brackets, that's the sound. And these are different ways that on paper they can be represented. But how powerful of a word wall is that? For them to come up with a word that they don't know, and I say to them, okay, now say it out loud, what do you hear? Which one of these is it? Let's look down these columns and let's try it out. Are there any family members? Are there any connections? And so often kids, when they write it on paper and they see it, if they've been reading and being exposed to words, they often will, oh, that one looks right, and so on. But phonology is there. This one is incredible. So sign signal. Remember, always start, what does it mean? So do you see a meaning connection? A sign, a signal?
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's the next in our question? How is it built? Signal, hold the banana, put on your x-ray glasses, peel the banana, what's the base? Sign, S-I-G-N. What are we fixing on? And I always use that language, fixing on, and we're fixing on AL. So then I say, oh my gosh, let's go and look at our board. Do we have it here? Do we have it? And, you know, we go through a whole process of you have to prove. You can't just say, oh, I found one, that must be right. You have to find evidence of other words that use those building blocks. But this board started at the start of the year. I had, you know, maybe 6 or 7 base ones to get things rolling. And that's just growing as we discover and the year goes on. That one is mind-boggling. And that was another big one for me. Wow, this is big. I just never knew. Does it have a meaning connection?
Yep.
I do my homework, he does his homework.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Structure. Peel the banana. What is that? Do, what are you fixing on?
Yes.
Yes. Does sound affect spelling? Do, does? Oh, they don't sound the same. But guess what? Sound isn't number one big boss man. What's number one big boss man? What does it mean? How is it built? Are there family members connected? And if there is sound that makes a difference to the meaning, but do, does, okay, there's a pronunciation shift. So what? So what? We know it belongs to the same family because it has the same meaning. It has related meaning, and the structure is such that it's DO plus ES. And this really got my mind just, oh my goodness. This one is incredible. I love this. Say this out loud for me. Cats. What is the meaning of that? Cats, it's more than one cat. We got a bunch of these furry things running around. Say that word for me. Dogs. And what is the meaning of that?
More than one
It's
dog.
more than one dog. So they both mean more than one. What is this that we are fixing on? It's the suffix S, and what is the meaning of that S? What does it do for us in life?
Makes it plural.
It makes something more than one.
Yeah.
So I run over to my board here, which has got the distinction of vowel suffix and consonant suffix, and lo and behold, there we are. So very simple, cats, dogs. There's a different pronunciation. So how many children have you seen D-O-G-Z, for example, or with the Z sound? Because what have they been told? Sound it out, spell it like it sounded. But if we are retraining their brain to first go by meaning, to second go by how is it built, then the fact that one time it sounds like a S and another time it sounds like a Z is like, so what? It doesn't matter, because we're taking the base word and we're making more than one. And that's where this becomes so powerful for the children, because what we can say is that on paper, it's the letter S. And okay, so in English, it might have the S sound. It might have the Z sound. And there's even this one. And I personally don't get into all the, what is it, EPA? The fancy
International Phonetic
IPA.
Alphabet.
Yeah, I personally don't get into that with my kids. But this is the Uz. The Uz. But
Schwa.
no, it's the third formation of the plural.
Like,
But-
I know what you mean, like buzzes.
Yes, yes. Uz. But it's absolutely releasing to the children this idea that on paper has its sounds. So homophones are absolutely mind-boggling. You know, if I were to say, okay, take 30 seconds and write as many homophones as you can, say them out loud, and everyone's like, ha, I told you the English language was irregular. I mean, look at that. Two, two, two. How am I meant to know? There, how am I meant to know? Well, what do we throw back at their face? It's all about meaning. And because English orthography or English spelling is all about meaning, we have to have a different way to represent that sound in order to represent the meaning. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. I won't spend a huge amount of time, but it's absolutely mind-boggling. This is etymology. You know, we talked about word history. So we've got here and here, and it's like, oh man, how do I know which one's which? Guess what? It's no coincidence. What does here mean? What does it mean? Oh, it's when you listen with your ear. When you listen with your ear. It is absolutely built into the English language, this connection. That happens to be one of these etymology back in word history kind of cool. Ooh, that's neat, never thought of that before. And then you look at the here, and you say, oh, well, if it's not here, it's over there. So how would I spell it? Would I spell it T-H-E-A-R? No, because there has to be the meaning connection. Is there a meaning connection between here and there? Absolutely. If it's not here, it's there. And what about this word, where?
Here.
So it's not here, it's not there.
Where is it?
Where is it? And these kids are like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And they're beginning to see English spelling in a whole new light. And then you get into the where, and you say, well, why is it we have to have a different spelling? Because spelling is about representing meaning. And we've already used up the W-H-E-R-E. And then the cool thing about that is the W-H. Well, what do you then get into the what, why, when, where, who, all the W-H question words. I mean, it's amazing the way that everything is connected.
So how did you explain the where, W-E-A-R, when we've already explained the ear?
Yes.
How do you then say to a kid who says, well, that doesn't apply to where, W-E-A-R, we're not listening with our ear?
Yes. Yeah. So
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I'm trying to think here.
I mean,
I think I would
if you don't know,
probably
just say that. I was
go
just
through
curious
that.
because I don't know that word meaning. I
Yes.
don't know why we do that. I myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Um,
I'll look it up.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
gosh.
So with these ones, I actually want to zip through these fairly rapidly so you can get a smidgen of hands-on stuff, because I got something next door, and I got a bunch of cool things here, and I know I'll run out of time. But anyway, here we go. So a lot of these are on Pete's websites, a lot of them are from my classrooms, but just imagine, rather than, okay children, it's spelling time, oh. Word detectives, like they're just passionate about this uncovering, and oh, that's so cool, making that connection and this connection. Word detectives is what I call, we don't call it spelling, word study, because we're scientists investigating words. And my ultimate is every year, I send out emails to parents around about Christmas time, because within a class of kids that are, you know, everyone's varying degrees of excited and not excited, but there's always passionate ones. And every year, I've had 1 or 2 or 3 passionate ones, and I send parents and say, hey, do you need a gift idea for your kid? Here's the ISBN for this book. That would be the most amazing book for a Christmas present, if you're looking. Because this book allows them to investigate the structure. It's incredible. I hope I get a chance to show you, but it's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, I'll try and zip through them, but just short vowel, long vowel. This Venn diagram is words that have, and there again are those brackets, this whole distinction between k and s for what is on paper as the letter C. So the word ice versus cat. It's like, oh man, how come? Well, you can be talking about these angled brackets and that distinction. Well, these don't come out very well, sorry. But this is, we were investigating the base word MEDI. We had bumped into it in math class. We were doing median, mode and median and average and all that stuff. And me, I'm obsessed with word study, can't keep it out of my life. So we did a word study lesson on it. This is a matrix, and what they were doing is they were going through dictionaries and making up related family members, which is number 3 step of that. So many family connections. And this one is just so enlightening. So yes, we've got the stereotypical A-I-O-U, sometimes Y, but I have this poster to them and I say, my goodness, these poor overworked vowels. There are 6 vowel letters in the English language. There are 17 vowel sounds. How are we going to cope? Or are you going to have some BFFs? You're going to have some guys that team up, and we call those digraphs. And we've even got 3 friends that go together, and we call those trigraphs. And sometimes they're vowel teams that go together. And so we would have a lesson where we would develop vowel by vowel, and they'd go through and investigate and book hunt and this, that, and the other. And we've even got some where it's a mixture of vowel and consonant. So then you get UGH. So UGH of tough, the f sound comes from UGH. And we investigate those as word detectives, and then they fix it into the brain. We have a poster up here that I would develop as we investigate it. And look how powerful that is. Again, how does it sound? How is it written on paper? And they can investigate positions. I think I have a slide here. We went on a hunt one time to see if these particular vowels were found at the beginning of words, middle of words, or end of words. Because there are all sorts of different must-be's and can-be's of that. The word matrix, I hope to get to that. This is a word sum, this idea of that plus that plus that. We went on a magazine hunt where we were trying to prove one of the lessons that we had done by finding real live examples. This one's mind-boggling. Okay, so the stereotypical thing that we teachers do, vowel sound, a long vowel sound is made up with the vowel, a consonant, and then the silent E. That's so typically established, and it's 100% correct. But guess what? It's only one of 7 reasons why we have a single silent E on a word. You have the word please. Oh, please, can I just leave? I'm tired, it's the holiday. Why do we have the E there? Because we got the EA, that's already taken care of the long vowel sound. And it turns out, it's absolutely mind-boggling, that we have a silent E to avoid confusion with making plurals. So blow me away. What is the word here? The word is please. And the reason we have that is because we do not want, in the English language, them to think that it's more than one plea. Oh, I went to the court and the judge was listening to the pleas and said guilty to him and innocent to him. When I learned that, I was blown away. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. So why do I spell the word tease with a silent E? Because I don't want to avoid thinking that this is more than one T. Because what do I know about the suffix S? It makes more than one. I mean, and I never knew that. I was never taught that. But you do these units out of these resources here. So empowering. And then for them to say, oh, well, I'm just not going to believe this chickie, Mrs. McGrath, I send them on a hunt. They go through the computer stores, they go through magazines, they make posters, they make theories of it. It was absolutely incredible. So it's very active, it's very scientific based, which is kind of cool for us as science teachers. This was taken from a grade 1 teacher who had the morning message. I mean, so much can be pulled out of what we already do. You don't have to create new stuff. So this was, as we taught before, with the cats, dogs. So they had done that theme from these resources. They had been taught that, they had investigated. And so they were just doing a little checkup of, ooh, let's go hunting to see how many words have the S sound, the S sound. So many possibilities. So this idea is saying, oh man, it's just irregular, it's full of exceptions. That totally denies this generative strategy of, dude, it's more than just learning individual words. It is so much more than learning the word on Friday, Monday, spewing out on a test Friday, and forgetting it by Monday. It's so much more than that. And it reminds me of the workshop, reading and writing workshop. Like they always say, it's not teaching the lesson, it's teaching the concept that they can apply in any writing situation. It just triggered my mind the other day about Lucy. So, I mean, I got my little hallelujah, woo, it's logical, it's ordered. The students have a right to this accurate instruction. And that's when I started feeling guilty, as I was hearing more and more about this. And this is like, yes, we need to know about this. How is it all my life I've been saying that TION is a suffix? This blows my mind. I ain't gonna mention names because that would be naughty, but this is taken from a teacher's manual. TION, SION is a suffix. And I say baloney. Where is my proof? I can prove in 1 minute to a 1-year-old, grade 1 student.
Yeah.
If, what does it mean? How is it built? What are related family members? Everyone hold your banana. Action. Put on your x-ray glasses. Peel the banana. Action, it means that I'm doing stuff. It means that I'm going to, what's the base word? Act. And within 30 seconds, you've got a base. What are you doing with this? You are fixing it on to make a family-related word. There is no such thing as a TION. Blew my mind. I've been teaching it wrong all these years. Oh, look at this. Invention. And it's like, okay, so what? Invention. S-H-U-N is probably how they would misspell it. But if they were retrained, meaning first, how is it built, family members, then they get away from that habit of sound it out. Because you know that you're going to get this. You just know that. If you tell them constantly, sound it out, go for it. Well, yeah, shh, S-H. Oh, But if you get them to think, Where does it come from? What are the building blocks that we've established? It's like, oh, this is interesting. So this slide is hilarious to me. When I saw that, it's like, oh my God, who can I trust? Who can I trust? So obviously this idea of well-designed practice, and I like to use the word highly engineered practice, and that's probably what stresses me out so much and causes me to spend so much time with it. You can't just slop any other thing down. You want things to come forth that are the right things. And so, yeah, you're not going to throw them a word that is out of their realm. You want a word that will highlight what it is that you want to highlight. And so it really is this carefully constructed word. And this one, it's all about someone who knows the way to figure out the logic of the words and can construct them as needed. It's all about problem solving. And man, oh man, does that fit in with my inquiry-based learning? If ever, if ever. This idea that they're detectives and they're investigating. Incredible. So you guys, well, at this stage, we've got activities, and like I say, I'm very welcome to continue on if you're in. I know that you've had a long afternoon, but these are the tools that are absolutely fabulous to use within the classroom. This one, I have a friend who does that. She's got this magic word bag, and inside this bag, she's got index cards with these words on. And she pulls out dramatically, word by word, and she has this for them. And she says, we're trying to figure out, we're trying to guess, what is that missing word? Where do these words all come from? So they pull out the word playfully, and you've got an idea, and they pull out the word player, and then they pull out the word ball player. And this was done in a kindergarten class. This was done in a kindergarten class, and they got, oh, this comes from the word play, P-L-A-Y. So there's all these kind of things. This one, the word bag, you have words and which one belongs and which one doesn't belong. This one is the matrix, which is the absolute foundation of the tools to study the structure. What does it mean? How is it built? So this word matrix allows us to dig deeper. Remember the whole hopping, hoping thing? If you use a matrix, you're going to see that. So immediately you see that, and what words do you see? Name off as many words as you can see using this base, quest, and any of the prefixes, suffixes.
Question.
Question, so I see question. I see request.
Requests.
I see
Plural
more
quest.
than one request, requests. Oh, I see conquest. We just finished doing social studies. Isn't this so powerful of not only improving vocabulary, but seeing the structure of these words? So in your booklets there in front of you, you can take away with you, or on the whiteboards, play around with these. This one, for example, what words do you see?
Package.
I know, isn't it cool?
Yeah.
And I actually have made it up as an activity, as a sort of detective type activity. I give them these building blocks and I say to them, okay, can you build the matrix? And like if you want to try it, it is so cool because you're playing around with, okay, where would I have to put that? Does that has to come after that? It's absolutely incredible. It's super fun to try
And then
that.
how do they drop the E then in on the packet?
Yes! I was hoping someone would say that.
Okay.
Woo! So this is where I would say, vocalic suffix mon. There's some word in here, one word that's just a little bit weird. And you're going to get the sharp one that says, wait a second. Package, P-A-C-K-A-G-E, packaged, oh, I packaged up my cookies yesterday to send them to my grandmother. That's not spelled with two E's. What's happening? And then instead of you being the teacher who spews out the answer, what do? You investigate. How do scientists investigate? They get a whole bunch of evidence of data, and go looking for patterns to see whether their hypothesis is correct or incorrect. And it's through that highly structured, highly engineered investigation, because of the words that I presented them, that they come through, obviously with the help of the teacher. And I'm not saying that they're going to come up with it on their own. But this whole idea of moving from the matrix to the word sum, and you've got a bunch of ideas of matrices here. I have a DVD that has 70 of them, so it's not as if I'm reinventing the wheel here. And you get a child, you put that down on the middle of a table, you get a small group of kids who are trying to make as many words as possible from this, and then you see what they bump into. You can't deal with everything that same day, and you don't try to. That's the big thing about this, is that you pick and choose, and there's a time for everything. I mean, that used to drive me insane, of how do I fit it all in? But you don't try to. You don't try to. So, for example, JUMP plus ED is rewritten as there's no changes there. That one, check the joins, there is. And that's where the Y changes to an I. So you do a whole investigation of that theme.
What do you mean by word sums?
Yeah, so this is a word sum. So what a word sum is you're trying to peel that banana, put on those x-ray glasses, get that word down to the smallest unit of meaning. And this is, again, really weird for children in the beginning, and by the end of it, my kids know what a bound base is. Because they look at that when they first start and they say, well, that's not a word. And I said, but that's really interesting. Does it have meaning? And the thing is, if you fix something onto it, it does have meaning. It has meaning. It has a prefix, which makes the meaning of the whole one. So a word sum this is a word sum. And what it is you're trying to reduce the word that you're investigating into its individual components, which we call morphemes, which are the smallest units of meaning. So the ED is a unit of meaning that makes past tense. Or the ING is a unit of meaning that makes continuing on. And that's why this kind of a chart is so cool, because these are what I call the building blocks, and that's kind of the terminology that they use. So this was in a grade 4 class that had been doing it for a long time. I used to give them, I was stuck in a school that had spelling tests and so on. So I gave them the words, and part of their homework, they had to make theories of word sums. Like, how cool is that? So each week we would have the theories put up on the board, and I would leave them there over the week, and we would try and prove or disprove them by finding family connected members and so on. I won't do that, but here's an example explaining of matrix. And the sign one is absolutely incredible. I think in your booklet, or maybe it's in your green booklet, one or the other ones, there's the sign. Oh, there it is on the first page. So what is it that we can learn? What is it that we can learn from that? Does anybody find the word that has vocalic suffix? In other words, the E, all of a sudden, when something's fixed on, the E is dropped. So these are the smallest units of meaning, either prefix in the front, or to the right of them are the suffix. And the matrix allows you to make as many words as you can. So I've got assignment, and I resign. Or, interestingly, I re-signed my contract. Big difference here. Does anybody see the supervocalic suffix man? This is graph language. Where the E is dropped.
Signature?
Yes, yes. SIGN plus ATE plus URE is rewritten as SIGN, AT, no E, URE. And so you would do a whole investigation on that. I mean, you don't just toss it off in 10 seconds. But how many children misspell the word sign? And what do? You tell them, well, is signature in the same family? Do you hear good signature? And that's what I tell my kids. They have to write sign every week because of something I send home. And they don't misspell it now because there's a meaning connection between sign and signature that I never knew existed before. So you would have children practicing up, making word sums off of a matrix. Yeah, this whole idea, this is a really rich one because look at that. You've got an E on the end of the base. So as soon as you fix on the ing, wait a second, that's not how you spell moving, M-O-V-E-I-N-G. And then I say to them, ooh, what's going on? You know, get really dramatic with that. And then, is there any other examples? So they make a list of evidence, like a scientist, and then we start investigating. So what is it about those words versus those words? How come those ones drop the E, but those ones don't? And you can make it as direct as you want, or you can make it as inquiry-based as you want. And what do they determine? If it's a vowel suffix, these ones, it causes the silent E of the base to drop. If it's a consonant suffix, it has no power. So, this one, safely, is it S-A-F-L-Y? No, because these have no power. They're useless. They're not Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that would be a week-long investigation, for example. So it's pretty darn cool. In the sense of once we've done an investigation, I would put the poster up. I would not put those up at the start of the school year. It grows as we do that theme. I would put it up on my word wall. But I just wanted to show you everything that I have developed over the years. So this whole idea of words away on steroids, sorry, I love that. So you've got the headings, you've got the words that you have to categorize. These are the headings, so you lay them out on the carpet. And then you read out those, make sure that you know the meaning, because in order to know family connections, you have to understand meaning. And then you have the children go and do the sorting and the categorizing by that. And what that then allows you to do is to investigate the idea of what's going on. Why do some drop this and some don't drop that, for example? But that's where I found that I could kind of reconcile this because I kind of regard it as words away on steroids.
So, Ilana, do you make these word sorts, I guess, based on the matrix? Or how do you create your word sorts?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to talk to people about that because the school that I did this heavy, hot, huge, I spent hours creating those lists and now they're done, you know. So I can share those with you if you're interested and all. But that's where I say it's so highly engineered that I would go through and find those words that I wanted in order to highlight what I wanted. And so, yes, the word list from Words Their Way at the back is very often a huge help. It is.
And do you do this as a whole class or individualized according to where students are?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point as well. A mixture of both. I mean, there would be the students, especially if I were teaching grade 5, that really need to bang away at phonology-based themes. So when you look here, and actually on the back page of this booklet, is every single theme that is within this resource. There are phonology themes, there are etymology themes, you know, kind of word history, 2 to twice, all that kind of deal. And then there are morphology themes. And so I might have a small group of children that really need working on their vowels. And so I would purposely go through these themes and pull out the themes, maybe for a smaller group of children, that would be allowing them to get more help with the phonology side of things and the sounds. That's what's the wonder about this, is that you can pick and choose what's pertinent. But to go back to your question, very often, yes, this would be whole class because everyone's on an even field. It's just such a new way of thinking.